And confirm, please. And you can tell us over the mic, loudspeaker, it's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all, and welcome to the Cabinet meeting of VOWHDC District Council on this first day of the month, Friday, 1st of December. Thank you all for attending. We have some members of the public in the room. And I just want to welcome you all and start the agenda. So we're starting the agenda with apologies and details of the fire evacuation. Could you, are there apologies to note?
Thank you. Yes, Chair, there is an apology from Councillor Helen Pighills. Also, if I could remind everybody in the meeting room that in case of fire alarm, we evacuate by going out of this door, turning right, and then turning left out of the fire exit and corridor just behind that wall. Could I do a roll call, please, Chair, of members? If you could confirm, please, whether you're online or in the meeting room in alphabetical order. Councillor Mark Coleman.
Present online.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Call.
Present in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Andy Crawford.
Present in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Deborah Dewhurst.
Present in the room.
And Councillor Lucy Edwards.
Maybe having trouble there.
Yeah, not present at the moment. Councillor Neil Fawcett.
Present in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Andy Fulsham.
Present in the room.
And Councillor Diana Legova.
Present in the room.
And Councillor Bethia Thomas.
Present in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going on to item number 2, declarations of interest, and I believe we do have some declarations of interest. Councillor Dewhurst.
Against the, I'm not sure which item number it is, sorry, on number 8, I think it is, the Chiltern Parish Council play area. I'm on the team that is asking for the Section 106 money.
Okay, thank you. And I've been advised that while you can comment on it, you can't join in any of the debate or decision-making processes, and it would be sensible if you just left the room for that item, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. On to item number 3, and as we all know, we have had some very sad news this week, and if you wouldn't mind, I would just like to read a short statement about Patrick Aaron, who we have lost this week. I would like us all to take a moment now to remember Patrick Aaron, our head of legal and democratic services, who sadly passed away while on holiday on the 27th of November. Patrick joined us just over 2 years ago, following the retirement of our previous head of legal and democratic services, Margaret Reed. Her shoes were big ones to fill, but Patrick did a great job of settling into that role and making it his own. Patrick will be remembered by all those who worked with him as a strong and reliable head of legal and democratic services and as our monitoring officer. He provided trusted, helpful and sound guidance to members and was valuable to the organisation with regard to his extensive knowledge, understanding and experience of democratic processes. Patrick will also be greatly missed as a valued colleague for his clear vision and good humour. This has been a challenging time for council staff. Only a few days before, Louise Franklin, who worked at the council for 20 years as an invaluable member of the Parks and Technical team, has sadly passed away. Louise had taken ill health retirement at the end of September this year as part of her brave battle against cancer. With the distressing news of the loss of 2 valued colleagues in such a short space of time, it is reassuring to know staff are being well supported by our HR team through access to our mental health first aiders and via the support available through our employee assistance programme. Let us take a moment of silence now to reflect and remember Patrick and Louise, both taken from us too soon. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families and friends during this difficult time. Thank you. There are no further shared announcements. So could we move on to item number 4, public participation? Now, I am correct that there's one member of the public and there are 2 district councillors wishing to speak. Can I confirm, is Councillor Foxall speaking at item number 4, item number 5?
Item number 5 is what she would like to speak on.
Okay. She would like to speak on, but at this time.
You can take her at this time if you want to.
Okay.
Put it in together.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's confirmed that I will take all 3 speakers as part of item number 4, public participation. We have David Marsh, the Vale District Secretary for the CPRE, Councillor Catherine Foxall, and Councillor Hayley Gascoigne. So can I call upon David Marsh?
David Marsh.
David Marsh, can you come address us? Thank you.
I'm speaking to the item about the local plan.
Yes, thank you.
Morning, councillors. As I say, I speak as secretary of the Vale District of CPRE. During the development of the current Vale local plan, I was the chair of Harwell Parish Council. And I well remember many difficult meetings subjecting to unrealistic housing numbers and inappropriate site allocations. This new plan's only been out for a few days. There's a lot to take in, but at first sight, we welcome the plan. I would like to thank the officers and councillors who have brought us to this stage. Obviously, there's a lot of detail to go through and we reserve full judgment, but we welcome the policies that help protect the countryside, green belt, hedgerows, dark skies, and are pleased to see realistic housing numbers. But we do urge you to strengthen your resolve to resist taking on any more of Oxford's unmet need. At this meeting, I'd just like to highlight one policy, CE5, renewable energy. Solar is obviously very important and must be encouraged, but not at the expense of covering large areas of the countryside. CPRE is convinced that there should be more than enough rooftop space in the county to meet the demands laid out in Oxfordshire's Pathways to Zero Carbon. We're also asking for the development of a land use framework for Oxfordshire, so that demands of food production, energy, amenity, development and nature can be discussed and balanced. Superficially, CPRE is a great policy, but I'm struggling to understand some of its detailed implications. So if you have similar uncertainties, perhaps you could put these questions to officers now or later, so as to seek clarity before the draft goes to full council. The first question is, does the policy really encourage rooftop solar? Does it mandate solar panels for new developments, domestic and business? Secondly, the policy says that the policy map will be updated to show areas potentially suitable for ground-mounted solar development. Will this policy map be based on district work or based on the potential Oxfordshire land use framework? The draft says that the policies map will be updated at the next stage of consultation. The third question is, does this mean right now for January 24, or will it be waiting until autumn 24, the final draft? This guidance is urgently needed to protect the countryside. For example, in the Vale, the area north of Cumnor is under threat from several applications, including the massive Bockley West proposal I see has just been updated today. But with details in the policy map and full protection, the policy CE5 will be even more helpful than it promises to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your comments have been noted, straight by myself. Councillor Fulsham is here as well, noting, and I'm sure we will address it in good time.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas, and thank you, David, for your comments. I'm heartened to hear that you are feeling positive about the initial preferred options that we are putting out, or we hope to put out if we get a positive decision this morning.
Good.
And I thank you for raising the issues about solar PV, but also we should note that we're going to be encouraging onshore wind, and the map will be emerging through the process. And I'm informed it will be available by autumn 2024. You may not have caught up with the details of the dry vegetable plan. Actually has quite a strong encouragement for rooftop solar in our new developments. We have policy CE2, the net zero carbon buildings policy, which strongly advocates for each individual building for being net zero. I know we have our officers attending the meeting online who can fill in some more details, and with Chair's permission,
We can a bit, but because this is going out to a draft consultation,
yeah,
I wouldn't want our officers at this point in time to answer the specific questions,
okay,
because that would be prejudging the
Of course.
consultation that we're seeking member approval for. And that's not a pushback on the questions, just to reassure you.
Understand the process.
But
okay,
it would be more comfortable if members, and assuming that you're comfortable with what I've said, for us to respond with more detail after the consultation.
if you're
Yeah,
but no, we thank you for your comments and thank you on board, but we are very aware of these issues, and I'm sure the details will emerge through the consultation process. And but thank you for coming in and addressing us.
Very good to see you, dear. Thank you. Yeah, so our next speaker is Councillor Catherine Foxall. Can I confirm, Catherine, that you are here, Councillor Foxall, that you are here as a ward councillor and not a scrutiny chair, because scrutiny has not yet met. Is that correct?
No, I am speaking as co-chair of joint scrutiny. I just simply have a couple of comments to make that don't relate to the substance of the reports that you're discussing today.
Yeah, okay.
Shall I go ahead?
Right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for letting me speak. Normally I would speak under item 5, but as you comment, we haven't had a scrutiny meeting since your last cabinet. I just really wanted to acknowledge the very difficult circumstances of this week, and which explain why in this context scrutiny relating to item 6 joint local plan options consultation will be happening next week. And just to acknowledge, but doing so in the knowledge that there's plenty of points during the ongoing process for scrutiny input. And I really wanted to just thank officers for being willing, having watched SODC's cabinet last night, to thank officers for being willing to consider joint scrutiny's recommendations subsequently. And we'll look forward to doing so next week. Thank you ever so much. And I look forward to listening to your discussion today.
Appreciate it. And yeah, it's right that there will be definite opportunities for scrutiny to input later on in the process. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you. And lastly, we have Councillor Gascoigne here to speak. And can I confirm as well with you that you are speaking here as a ward and district councillor and not the chair of the Climate Emergency Advisory Committee?
Yes, so I'm speaking as district councillor, although I am chair of CX, so there is a climate angle to this, but as similarly to Councillor Foxall, the Climate Committee have not met in the time that this report was released, so I haven't got comments from the rest of the committee.
Fine, thank you. Go ahead, thanks, Councillor Gascoigne.
Thank you. So I am speaking on the car parking item, car parking fees. So firstly, I want to consider the climate. So as climate chair, that is something that I always think about when we are making decisions as a council. And this council declared a climate emergency back in 2019, wants to be net zero on its own emissions by 2030, but also the district wide emissions by 2045. So my belief in that is that when we are making decisions and we're thinking about how to spend our money, we should think about doing things that push us in the positive direction rather than the negative one. And therefore, I don't think it's appropriate for us to spend council funds on people driving and parking their cars. Of course, they have the right to do this, and we do have the car parks there for people to use. I'm not trying to take those away, but it shouldn't be at the taxpayer's expense. So to bring it round to the finances, Councillor Crawford knows as well as I do that the purse strings are tight. We don't have bundles of money to be spending on stuff, and we have improved the financial situation of the council since we took administration in 2019, but the report shows that whilst we've improved this when it comes to car parking, we are still in deficit. Car parking will not pay for itself, which means the money we collect in car parking fees does not cover the running costs and maintenance of the car parks. It's easy to forget car parks aren't free to run or even cheap to run. So we need to consider this. We should support our market towns. We want people to visit them, but there is very limited, if any, evidence that an hour's free parking does encourage people to do that. In fact, my belief is that if there's just 1 hour's free parking, you just try and go for an hour and then you leave because you've just put your free ticket and you need to get back to your car within an hour. So I don't think we should be subsidizing people doing that, and I would rather that we spend our money in more imaginative and innovative ways to encourage people to spend time in our market towns, and ones that rather than ways that encourage congestion and pollution. So to conclude, I would propose that you select an option when you're discussing the car parking fees item, that the cost to the council is reduced as much as possible. We can hopefully use any money saved to do more positive things for the environment. So I would suggest that we choose option B, where there is no free parking period, and instead introduce the nominal cost for the first hour. And incidentally, there's an option that suggests that electric cars should have a cheaper fee. I don't even agree with this because I think it still encourages car use and encourages congestion in our towns when we should be thinking of other ways, active and public transport and so on. So my recommendation or my suggestion as district councillor is that you choose option B, where there is no free parking, and don't choose option F that reduces the cost for electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gascoigne, for your enthusiasm, and it is really positive to hear that you have such strong views on this, and I'm sure they're shared by others, and we will take them into account when we debate and discuss this later. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. That's it, participation. So, item number 5, recommendations and updates from other committees. Now that was there because we were due to have scrutiny, but obviously that has not happened. So Councillor Foxall has already addressed us under public participation for that reason. And so there are no other
updates, Chair, no.
So thank you. And so that means we will just go on straight on into item number 6. And that is the joint local plan 2041 approval of preferred option document for public consultation. And that is being introduced, I believe, by Councillor Fulsham. So I'll leave it to you, Councillor Fulsham.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. The item before you this morning seeks your approval to go out for a second round of public consultation on the joint local plan. Still at a relatively early stage with the plan, known as the Regulation 18 stage. In this consultation, we show our initial thinking about the plan, set out various options for policies, and show which is the preferred option so far. We also suggest what draft policies might look like under each preferred option. There's still a long way to go before the plan is finalised into a draft plan, and then consulted on again next autumn at the Regulation 19 stage, before it's submitted for examination by an independent planning inspector and eventually brought to full council for adoption, and for December 2025. When it's adopted, the joint local plan will replace the existing local plans for South Oxfordshire and for the Vale of Whitehorse districts. The emerging direction of the joint local plan is set out clearly in the vision and objectives. What you'll see are the proposals that push the envelope on things like net zero carbon, biodiversity net gain, dark skies, and water efficiency policies, where we have the opportunity to be at the cutting edge. Because of a large quantity of development already planned in the adopted local plans, there is no need for new strategic greenfield housing sites or new employment sites beyond those already planned. And proposes just 2 new allocations. Both are brownfield sites, which will need a new use over the planned period. One in the south, former council offices in Cromarsh Grifford, and one in the Vale, extending the existing allocation at the Dalton Barracks Garden Village. It's not only the policies that are innovative, it's how they are presented and conveyed. We were shortlisted for a national award with the first consultation on the joint local plan last summer, and this time the team have gone further again, working closely with the community engagement team to design consultation to be as engaging and accessible as possible, aiming to reach new audiences. We're innovating by offering the joint local plan in a nutshell, which contains the headlines of the plan to allow residents to give us their views without the need to go into the detail. There's also an interactive policies map to make it easy to see which policies apply where. As I said, we are still at a relatively early stage with the plan, and there is still plenty of opportunity for refinement once we have consulted and heard the views of the public, developers, parish councils, and organisations that are invested in or care about our districts. The recommendation before you is that Cabinet approves the preferred options version of the joint local plan and the supporting documents for the next public consultation, which will launch in January and then run for 6 weeks. There is also a recommendation allowing the delegation to the head of service in consultation with both South and Vale lead Cabinet members for the joint local plan to make any necessary amendments to get the plan ready for that consultation. There is a proposed change to the second recommendation to confirm that the delegation includes the scope to consider comments or suggestions from the Joint Scrutiny Committee prior to commencement of the consultation period. To be clear, this change is intended to allow due process to be maintained. I hope that this is a useful summary, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. Obviously, we've had from CPRE today, and we're looking forward to engaging with our resident parishes and public as we go forward. So can I open discussion or questions? Neil's first.
Thanks. I want to very strongly support the proposal on the table. It's very clear, and I'll echo the comments that were made by the representative of CPRE earlier. It's very clear that the pace of development that was agreed in the last Vale local plan and the other local plans of the other districts in Oxfordshire at that time set out an incredibly high pace of development. And it's been very clear since then that firstly, that has created a problem for some of the other district councils in terms of being able to fulfil their 5-year housing land supply, because as development has slowed in the last couple of years, that's affected their ability to deliver. This is a slightly odd part of our planning system where councils are punished for the actions of, or the inactions of developers, but there you go. Secondly, the promised infrastructure in an overall sense that underpinned that round of local plans has not been delivered as quickly as the housing has been delivered. We were elected on a very, very clear platform with very substantial public support for going back to more realistic housing figures, and we're doing that by quite rightly using the standard method as the starting point, in line with the national planning framework, which, as Andy has said, means that we will be in a position where we don't need to identify any additional large greenfield sites for development on top of those which are already in the existing local plan. And I think generally the public will, our public will welcome that. I also think, we are delivering on our commitment to put climate change at the heart of all of our policies, and it is very good to see the aim of reducing carbon emissions and also the importance of nature recovery and improving biodiversity being supported by proposed policies in this plan as well. So I think in proposing the current draft to the public, we are fulfilling the promises we made when we were elected to run this council. I think it will be largely supported by communities across the Vale. And I also think it's important again to note that by working with South Oxfordshire, we're also fulfilling our promise to act as efficiently as possible. And between the two councils, we are saving significant amounts of money over the period of the plan development by working together. And overall, I think that's been a very successful process. So I'll just finish by thanking Andy and the other councillors that have worked on this and our officers who've worked incredibly hard to get the proposals to this point. It's not an easy job to do this, and they've done fantastically well.
Yes, I would definitely echo those thoughts of appreciation and thanks to our officers, and I'm sure I hope they understand that we do appreciate all their efforts for getting us to this stage. It's been quite a road so far, and I'm sure it's going to be quite a road ahead of us. So yes, we do appreciate it. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Actually, just a short comment. Again, GLP looks great. Just even at this stage before consultation started, I wanted actually to add, Councillor Posset, just points about, just what we're addressing. We're addressing actually healthier buildings, healthier communities, and obviously nature recovery, which was mentioned.
Yeah.
So that's quite important, just which, knowing the NHS states and everything else, it's quite important that we address the root cause and try to improve on that side.
And I think it's easy to get complacent about how innovative this plan is, and we are. It's cutting edge. Can we say that? That it really is pushing. We can say all of them. We can say pushing the envelope. We can say everything ridiculous. Can we do that?
You definitely can. You definitely can.
Of what is possible for a local plan, and we are so proud that we've been able to work with officers to try and get our views and our ideals across, and for them to make it possible. And so again, really appreciate the efforts there. Now, is there anything to note from a procedural point of view, Steve? Here,
We have the recommendations up on screen. That would be useful.
That would be interesting. Would you like to introduce this, or
No.
And
Andy?
I'll read it through. If you like.
Yeah, read it through.
I will read it through because the wording is precise. The recommendation B is to delegate authority to the head of policy and programmes in consultation with the South Cabinet Member for Planning and the Vale Cabinet Member for Corporate Services, Policy and Programmes to make any necessary amendments, updates or corrections to the joint local plan and supporting documents, mapping and appendices, including to consider any comments or suggestions from the Joint Scrutiny Committee prior to the commencement of the consultation period.
Thank you, Councillor Bushman.
I'm happy to propose this.
Thank you. And those variations were put in place because of the postponement of the scrutiny meeting. That's correct. So it's a minor change, but it's very important because we do value the input of scrutiny in the future, and we are noting that here. So we get back to my agenda, if I may.
Steve. Somebody proposed A and the amended B.
Yes.
Yes, so,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
one?
Chair, we need a proposal for A and B, the amended B, and a second.
Yeah. So can I ask for those someone to propose recommendations A and B amended
As amended.
as amended?
As amended on screen. Yeah, I'll propose those.
Thank you. Any seconders?
Second.
Councillor Forson second. And so we're being asked to review this report and share any comments, recommendations, and we're approving these recommendations. Is that correct?
A and the amended B on
And the
screen.
A and the amended B on screen and not in the report. So if everybody's understanding that, are we all good to agree that?
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And on to,
Chair,
oh, sorry.
if I could beg your permission for a minute, I'd just like to express my heartfelt thanks to the officer team. There's a tremendous amount of work gone into this kind of local plan consultation. As the leader has just said, we take it for granted. Well, we shouldn't take it for granted. They are exceptionally good. I've only been with them as department covering my portfolio for relatively few months. I've been blown away by the standard of their work, their commitment, their readiness to answer questions from somebody who's running from a standing start. They've gone a long way. We are pushing the envelope, not just on our policies, but on our consultation methods. I'm so excited by the use of the story maps and the interactive mapping and the joint local plan in a nutshell. We're going to have much more consultation this time. We're putting out our draft policies at this stage, which is almost unheard of. I'm looking forward to getting the comments in. I'm looking forward to reading. I'm looking forward to the best possible joint local plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah. I should have let you go for it first, but I just remember at our briefing seeing officers and discussing this with them, and the plan itself is innovative, but yes, the consultation methods are amazing as well, and I'm looking forward to the nutshell thing. So thank you very much. So now, if it's okay, I will go on to item number 7, car park fees for 24-25, and that will be introduced by Councillor Coleman, who is on screen today. Councillor Coleman.
Good morning, Cabinet. Can I just confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. My apologies for not being able to be with you, but I think in the best interest of your health, I'm in the right place. So this report is in line with our car parking pricing policy, which requires Cabinet to review the car park fees each year, and the aim is for car park income to be at least meet the cost of running the car parks. You may recall that last year the Cabinet agreed to increase permits by 10%, which has not had a significant impact on increasing income. You can see the car park income and expenditure in table 2, which you'll find on page 16 of the report. In 2022-23, the account made a small loss of some £19,000. The costs associated with running the car park, like contractor costs for enforcement and ticket processing, electricity, admin and depreciation, are all expected to rise in the medium term. The bottom line of the table shows an estimated deficit this year, 23-24, of over £93,000, and this deficit continues in the medium term up to an estimated deficit in 26-27 of some £230,000. The report sets out a number of options summarised in table 3, which you'll find on page 17, which the Cabinet can consider aiming for a balanced car park account. Briefly, these options are as follows. Option A is to make no change to the fees, but this would mean a deficit in the car park account in the next few years and would not be in line with the council policy. Option B is to remove the free 1 hour and introduce a fee of some 50 pence to park for up to 1 hour. This is the only single option assessed as making a significant impact on the account to increase income by some £300,000 per year, which would meet the cost of running of the car parks. This would require a formal consultation process and for Cabinet to consider further any comments received. This would be a major change as the Council has offered a period of free parking for several years. However, introducing a small fee of say 50 pence for up to 1 hour may also make people think about alternative ways of travelling, like taking the bus or cycling or car sharing. Option C is to charge on Sundays for parking. Currently, we only charge on Sundays in a few car parks in Abingdon, which are close to Abbey Meads. These are Abbey Close, Rye Farm and Hales Meadow car parks. Introducing fees on a Sunday would increase car park income by some estimated £40,000 per year. Option D is to increase the differential parking between parking in the town centre and on the edge of towns. Parking in the centre of town would be between 50 pence and £1 more expensive compared to parking on the edge of town. This may go some way towards reducing the vehicle movement in the centre of town and reduce congestion and air pollution. Table 4B, which you'll find on page 20, shows the changes for each tariff, which have been simplified and rounded up to the nearest pound. Cabinet should note that officers have raised a risk of challenge by those less physically capable of walking from the edge of town and so having to pay more, comparatively to parking in the town centre. Note that for disabled and blue badge holders, recent usage figures show plenty of capacity in the town centre car parks. No change is recommended for the free parking available for those displaying a blue badge. Option E is to extend the car parking charges into the evening. There are 3 sub-options here. The first is for a flat fee of £1 that will apply from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and raise income by an estimated £95,000 per year. The second is to extend the charge period up to 9 p.m. and therefore continue to have the free hour. This would increase income by an estimated £160,000. The third option is to extend the charge period until just 7 p.m. in the year 2024. This would allow for usage and income to be measured and then for the Cabinet to be able to consider further incremental extensions in future years. Option F is to offer half-price permits to vehicles with 0 emissions. This may help the uptake of the electric vehicle charging points that have been installed over the last year. This option supports the Vale's action on climate change to be carbon neutral within our operations by 2030. Option G is to increase all the costs of the permits by 10%. You will see on page 10 in table 1, there is an existing decision to increase the residence permits by 10% on the 1st of April 2024. This is for existing residents only, as the option of cheaper parking permits for residents was removed in 2020. The proposal for 2024 is for all other parking permits to increase. As an example, an annual permit for Portway car park in Wantage would increase from current £551 per year to £606 per year, and one for Rye Farm car park in Abingdon on Monday to Friday would increase from £629 to £692 per year. One of the officers provided you with a full table of the resultant costs of the 10% increase. This doesn't change the overall income, but it just provides you the full details. Option H is to increase all the parking fees by inflation, rounded up to the nearest 10 pence. Table F on page 21 lists the proposed fees from 1st of April 2024. These increases are estimated to derive an income of £50,000 per year. Finally, the last option, option I, is to increase the overnight parking fee for camper vans, which are authorised in Hales Meadow car park in Abingdon. The take-up has been good over the past year, and we have received positive feedback from users as these types of extra wide spaces within a short walk of the town centre here in Abingdon are rare in Oxfordshire. An increase to £10 to park and sleep in a vehicle overnight still represents good value. And so Cabinet is asked to look at the options to change the fees and agree the parking fees for the year 2024 to 2025. As summarised in table 3 on page 17, for straightforward increases in fees or permits, these can be amended by notices in the car parks and in newspapers, and if there are no delays to the implementation, officers will aim to arrange for the changes to be made with effect from the 1st of April 2024. If other changes are agreed which involve anything other than an increase in fee, such as extending the charging period or charging on Sundays, this will involve a period of formal consultation and for Cabinet to consider any feedback, so would not be implemented until at least June 2024. So I'd like to thank both Councillor Gascoigne and Councillor Forder for their input to Cabinet's discussion on this report. We always welcome comments, especially from members of the Council. I should just say, for clarification to Councillor Gascoigne's point, car parking fees derived are limited to only being allowed to cover the cost of providing parking facilities and are not allowed to be used for other council expenditure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman, and appreciate you struggling through that a bit with your cough. You've done very well. It was quite a lengthy introduction, but for good reason, because we do have lots of options to consider here. And as you made reference to both Councillor Gascoigne, who spoke here, and Councillor Forder, who submitted something in writing earlier, we do appreciate those inputs. And also noted in your introduction was a mention of a new table that has been produced. Is that correct? I believe so. And I want to just clarify that with John Buckley here, who is in the room.
Grab a chair, mate.
Come up.
Okay.
If you could just introduce this table specifically, because it's
Sure.
new to us. And
Thank you. Yes, apologies that this is a late addition to the report. It doesn't change any of the recommendations or any of the estimated change in revenue, but it does set out for option G what the permits would be if the Cabinet agreed for a 10% increase across the board. So in the table, I put the existing rate, which was agreed last year from the 3rd of April. And then the last column on the right is the new rate, if agreed, that would be implemented from April next year.
So just specifically, does anybody have any questions about this table, and more broadly about what we need to open out sort of debate and questions about our recommendations on all the options?
Yeah, so I just have a question. Obviously we've got a range of options, and I'm guessing some of them, if we take one option, it affects whether another option can work or not. So would I be right in thinking that if we supported option D, which is the differential pricing structure, which as part of it includes raising some of the fees, then that would effectively have quite an impact on whether option H would then give us any additional income, which is the 10% rise across the board. It may then completely wipe out option H, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be one or the other.
Yeah.
Before, so yeah, you can't have 10% and the differential. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Chair. I mean, that's partly true, but it's not entirely true, surely. There might be other fees that would, because H is increasing fees across the board, every single fee, and there's lots of different fee categories on there. Other than just the standard car park parking. So there might be some implications if we agree to increase fees across the board.
Increasing fees would be the fees for the individual car parks, the up to 1 hour, up to 3 hours, up to 5 hours. That is option H, and that would just be the fees, the 10p in the top, the pay and display fees. That wouldn't be the permits.
All right, okay, so that just means that pay and display fees.
That is just
option
pay and
H.
display.
Okay, thank you.
Fees, yeah, nothing else.
Yeah, option G, yeah. So, sorry, I always rely on you to have all the numbers, stuff like that. Don't test me, don't test me. Does anybody have any further questions or discussion point?
Can I raise a couple of points?
Please
if
do,
I may?
yeah. As I said.
I agree with Hayley that Councillor Gascoigne that we shouldn't be subsidising car parking. But on the other hand, we're not allowed to make a profit that isn't otherwise politically car park. So it's actually quite a fine balancing act. And if you look at table 2, it actually showed in the last year for which we know the figures, we actually made a very, very small deficit of, I assume it's a deficit actually, looking at it as of about 3%. So it was actually very, very close to the wire. I think her preferred option was option B, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Were we to implement that, based on the current forecasts that we have, we would actually be in significant surplus if the forecast is correct. But that's something to bear in mind. The other thing to bear in mind is that the contract that we have at the moment, SAPA, is due to expire, I believe, in about 18 months' time or thereabouts. And that's an opportunity for us to reconsider how we manage the car park operations. And it might well mean that the forecasts in table 2, beyond the year 24-25, actually might actually change significantly. And I'm assuming, I'll ask Sean this question if I may, that some of the increase in the cost that we're proposing, that we're expecting, sorry, for example, the central and admin costs, is it the case that those costs are having to go up because we need to get a team in place to renegotiate and relook at the contract, which is actually a one-off, which we wouldn't expect to repeat year on year? It's just tooling up for this big change.
Yeah, I can answer. Yeah, that's right. There is some additional staffing resource in the central administrative line that would help to prepare for the new contract, which comes into force on, well, whatever we decide to do, a new service rather, on the 1st of September 2025. So yeah, we're starting to look at options on what that service may look like, but as we're not sure what it is at the moment, I've in the contract costs under SABA, I presumed and forecast increases in RPI as per the contract with SABA at the moment.
Yeah, you obviously have to do that because you have to budget something. I'm not saying that's not sensible. I'm simply saying that although that might be the best thing to do at the moment, we don't know that's going to be the case in those future years.
Yeah. Would you mind if I asked John a question? I should tell John I was going to do this. Although the car parking account is ring-fenced and therefore is used for car parking activity, could you give members though an indication from me about how broad the surplus can be used? Because whilst it can't be used on general service delivery, it can be used on more than the tarmac and the white lines. So could you just do that? Very similar to what I've heard you do very recently.
Most definitely. I think there may be something in the report because the legislation under the civil parking enforcement that we started last November is very clear that any surpluses that are made can be spent on car parking improvements, but it does extend to other things such as leisure facilities and anything associated with infrastructure, a highway infrastructure. Now, I know District Council is not necessarily responsible for highway, but other things that the council may want to consider, such as cycle paths or anything associated with infrastructure, public conveniences, anything associated with the car parking service can be included and paid for out of that surplus if and when it arises.
That's very good to know.
Yes, sorry, thank you, Chair. Just going on from that, when you say leisure and cycle paths, do they have to be in the vicinity of the particular car park, or can they be anywhere in the district?
From memory in the legislation, I'd have to double check. It doesn't say anything about the vicinity. It's within the district.
Okay.
Cheers, and yes, thank you. But yeah, thinking my then bugbear, as I'm sure you know, in terms of improvement of car parks and signage, and I believe that the signage may be improved once things are settled down and we've made a decision on. Is that correct?
I think this would be an ideal opportunity. An ideal opportunity. Officers have drafted some new signs and designed some new signs.
We're
very keen to get on and install those, but obviously we want to wait for the outcome of today and the debate so we can install the new tariff boards with any fees that are agreed today.
Yeah, and we understand there's a lot to consider, and I think everybody has their viewpoints on parking and the way we make charges in our car parks. Obviously, Councillor Gascoigne has one view, and I've heard others suggesting that Councillor Forder suggesting sort of whether we could consider variations for elderly residents. And I think we have discussed that within the cabinet already, and sort of come to certain conclusions. And given that it is in flux, I mean, and that we are looking ahead to September 25 for a transformation, if I could use that word. Have I not used that word?
That's fine.
In the service. I don't know whether transformation has a technical meaning. That's why.
Not in this context.
Okay. I don't want to be treading on your toes as well. But
John will make one up later.
Yeah, we are in a state of flux because we do have to look at this in the context of several years in advance, and we are also making changes, hopefully proposed, that we could start to consider different ideas about promoting town centres and various other things that will come in, and hopefully we can discuss in future meetings. So does anybody have any further comments or questions? Councillor Cole.
I'm just looking at the table 2 again, these figures, and I just wanted to get a clearer picture in my own mind. So the outturn for 2023-24 seems to be quite low. Is there any particular reason why you would understand that to be the case?
Outturn looks particularly low.
In comparison to last year?
I think one of the things, there has been a review of the NNDR, the rates within the car park, which is brought down on the premises line. You'll see the actual for 22-23 is 246, but the estimated is £16,000 cheaper this year. But the total expenditure is going up because of other things like, as we mentioned, the electricity, the contract costs. So that expenditure is going up. Total income, because we haven't made any changes apart from the permits last year, that's within £2,000, about the same. So it's an estimation based on the first 4 or 5 months of this year. So it's the best we can do.
Okay. And just as another one as well, we've got in terms of the expenditure, you've got an increase in the contract costs.
Yeah.
Just under 40,000, and you've also got an increase in the central and administrative costs, which again is going to continue, even though as Councillor Corbett identified, that might just be a kind of one-off piece of work. I'm wondering if then the figures that we're talking about in terms of expenditure and therefore the surplus deficit are going to be accurate in the sense of, are we going to need those staffing? And is that where are the extra costs for the staffing going to be? Are they going to be in the contract or the central and administrative? Because when you add the two together, the additional markup that's happening or that's going to be happening this year, it seems to kind of, I know it's not 93,000 when you take it, but when you take into account the lower income that we're achieving, we're kind of not far off from last year's figures. Which kind of brings me to a point that then actually, do we need to make much change, if any at all? The question is, I suppose, are we double loading in terms of the administrative requirements?
We don't believe we are. I think it's similar to Andy's question. But all of these are an estimate. The starting point is always that the steer we have for members that shouldn't operate at a loss. The surpluses compared with the vast majority of councils are tiny, wouldn't even be cabled at a London Met. Little context. They are, broadly speaking, de minimis in terms of an accounting view. So from a weight in your decision, they would be deemed de minimis, because at the moment we believe they're accurate and they're an estimate going forward of what we believe we'll spend in the next couple of years. I think what is important is members would keep this under review on a yearly basis, because you're absolutely right. We are looking forward. If you look at, however, most of our inflation allowances, most of our forward planning thus far has underestimated the impact of inflation. We tend to be slightly cautious. And in fact, our general budget build last year used the OBR figure, which has turned out to be 3% wrong, as an example. So whilst I can't tell you we're confident, that, because I think that's what you're really asking, they're as right as we can get them for decision making at this time, but that they will change and vary as we move forward. So they're certainly not set in stone.
Okay, I mean, my next point is like, okay, based on that then, we know that the actual take this year so far is down. What is the evidence to suggest that even if we were to increase, that we're still going to get the figures that we're going to get coming forward? Given that if there is like people using, which is what we're trying to encourage, we're not going to get that taken down, or we'll be ignoring it.
It is entirely possible that if people don't return to the car parks, and I think the numbers are slightly down, John knows better than me, but that the usage is down, then the estimates could be slightly high or slightly low, but within the bounds of our accountancy thresholds, they're entirely tolerable, which is why Simon signs them off. What we'd say about all numbers, and I'm looking to Andy to make sure he's comfortable, it is with any projection, it's only ever as good as we can get it. Members can put a degree of confidence on it. I think that's fair, but no number we give as a projection it is ever guaranteed, and I think that's what Sue is rightly asking. They are a best view that we could give you at the moment, through a mixture of colleagues in the service, our current usage data. We know at certain times of the year car park usage goes up and down, which John's experience factors in, but they are only ever looking forward in an indicative figure, if I put it that way. Because any surplus, if there was one, can be used for cycling improvements and active travel improvements, I would be confident that if we ended up with a small surplus, there are sufficient council policies that are currently lacking resource that we could utilise it if members, if that's a helpful way of looking at
I
it.
suppose really the question I'm asking on, certainly on the income, is when you've put together all the various options and the figures that you said is how much income this will bring, which year's numbers have you used? This year's, which are down, or last year's?
I've used the current to calculate what the income would be if the changes I've made. I've used the usage figures from September 23.
This year.
This year.
This year.
Okay, so the ones that are actually down.
The ones
Yes.
that look like they may be the new baseline.
It's
Yes, exactly.
conservative, it's not it.
Right.
Now there's several hands up. I think Lucy's had her hands up for a while, but I think that might be on a slightly different slant. I know Neil, I know Neil came in possibly to discuss that topic.
I was going to make a point, but I was also going to make a proposal in an attempt to move us forward.
Okay.
So if you want to take Lucy.
Yeah, and then Councillor Crawford. So Councillor Edwards, would you like to make a comment?
Thank you, Chair. It's more a comment in terms of I welcome the discussion today. I'm sorry I can't be there. I think it's a very positive discussion in the sense that we can see an opportunity ahead of us, which I would welcome. So in the air of the contract being renegotiated in the future, I would recommend that we in any guise cover our costs so that we do not have the deficit ahead of us in the simplest manner to our residents. And then what I do welcome is the pushing the boundaries if we can as much as possible. If we do end up in a surplus, then that surplus money should be used in as best a way possible to therefore communicate to our residents that we are providing a fantastic service in whatever that is, be it services to leisure or wherever the legislation allows us. Equally, I would also welcome, I noticed in the report that we do not know the impact of the free parking in Witney and our other towns on the economic benefit of that. And I think it would be a welcome input to our residents that if there was an opportunity to do an impact report on that, so that if we were to get rid of the free parking, and I do welcome Councillor Gascoigne's point, that if we were to get rid of the free parking, that we actually had the evidence to show that perhaps maybe it doesn't have as large an economic impact as what we maybe thought, and that actually that was circumstantial. Because I think if the services are there and shops are there and people want to come into town, then they will do so anyway, but we want to encourage other means, obviously. So in summary, I recommend that we have to cover our costs in the coming year and that we see the SABA contract as an opportunity to think about things differently. And if we do end up in a surplus, how we best use that money. Thank you.
And yeah, I think that point of the surplus and using that in sort of perhaps a more expanded way to the ways we've traditionally thought of might be useful and would possibly help address some of those issues that Councillor Gascoigne is concerned about, and sort of if we could use it for active travel purposes and that sort of thing, then
to support modal shift back.
Alternatives to driving.
Alternatives to driving. Yeah. And even to put like cycle parks in our car park.
And racks.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what we want to see. Yeah, Councillor Fawcett, I believe you wanted to make a proposal.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to make a brief comment that I think that there is a limit to which we can realistically expect these estimates or projections to be accurate to the to the £200 or £500. Experience in previous years has shown us that they have generally been a reasonable indication of, in broad terms, of the amount of money different changes would make. but I don't think they've ever come in on the exact pound because there's so many different factors at play, even down to, you know, if there's a period of bad weather, or a bigger event like obviously COVID, but there's all sorts of different things that happen that affect the income or expenditure by a few £1,000s either way. So I think we shouldn't. It's not realistic to think these figures are going to give us the exact pounds to the pound. I think I'm right in saying that the changes we made 2 years ago, which were significant, ended up bringing in more money than the projected amount when we went from 2 hours to 1 hour free parking, which is encouraging. The proposed allowance, I think, obviously there are a range of opinions on this. What I would say is that certainly in Abingdon, and I think it'll be the case in Wantage, there is a significant amount of sensitivity in terms of the public view around the 1 hour free parking. And I think whilst that may be something we would want to look at some point, my own view is that we haven't done enough yet in terms of understanding the impact that might have. I do agree with the point about trying to get more solid evidence around that. I think that would be important. The evidence at the moment across the country is a little bit mixed, so that would be helpful. But personally, I'm not in favour of making a big leap like that without having a very clear evidence base that it's not going to create problems. So I was going to propose that we adopted a combination of option D, which is the differential pricing structure, which overall increases fees slightly more than on average than the 10% proposal, but does actually simplify the numbers, and as other people have said, creates an incentive against people driving around the town centres, which is a problem certainly in Abingdon and Wantage, and I can't speak for Farringdon on that. Plus G and I, which G is the increasing the cost of permits by 10%, and I is the increase in the overnight parking charge, which is probably going to be quite a small amount of money. In my view, that combination on the figures we've got moves us a long way towards closing the gap, and it's quite possible that it could actually close the gap on the basis of our previous experience of price rises. If I wanted to really overcomplicate things, I would also suggest changing the line for town centre car park charging to be basically £1 per hour after 2 hours. At the moment, it's the amount you pay for each extra hour varies during the day, but I'm happy. I'll put it on the table. If other people think that overcomplicates the proposition, then I'm happy to see that drop. But my proposal would be that we basically accept D and G and I. If anyone's willing to second that.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Yeah.
With or without the simplification.
Can I was going to say
with
the simplification. I was going to say also that subject to you said you can't speak on behalf of Farringdon, you don't know Farringdon, and I do. And the car parks there are slightly different, I think, in geographical distribution, because both of them are basically in the town centre, but we've only got a very tiny town centre, so like not much of a drive between the two. So I mean, subject, can we sort of have a note to sort of
if more simplification would change your figures?
And my guess was it had put them up a little bit, and it was slightly nearer to the break even.
Can we just clarify Neil's simplification?
So it would be for the town centre car parks.
Yeah.
It would be 1 hour free, 2 hours £2, 3 hours £3,
Yeah.
4 hours £4,
Yeah.
5 hours £5, 6 hours £6, 7 hours £7, and 8 hours £8, which in my mind is simple.
That's good. The only thing is that at the moment there isn't an up to 5 hours. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 hours, and then over 6 hours.
How easy is it to introduce?
I did ask this at one point, and I was told that it was possible to do it. So otherwise, I wouldn't have proposed it.
Okay.
Introduce an up to 5 hour charge.
Yeah.
So then we have a straightforward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and then over 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that would be £1 per hour in the town centres?
Yeah.
And what about in the?
I'm happy with the edge of town ones as they are, because I think that the whole point is that would actually widen the differential slightly, which I think is a good.
So at the moment, outside of town, up to 1 hour is free.
Yeah.
Up to 2 hours is £1.50.
Yeah.
Up to 3 hours is £2. The 4 hours is £3. There's no up to 5 hours, so we'd have to decide what that was.
I mean, I'd pitch for £3.50.
I can't do this in my.
You don't have to do it in your head. John has to do it.
I think that's right down.
Yeah.
Up to 5 hours, £3.50. Up to 6 hours, £4.
Yeah.
And then over 6 hours, £5.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
That would broadly fit within the financial figures that we provided to members,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
Yeah.
And could I just ask, Chair, because you mentioned specifically Farringdon, so Farringdon will be in the bracket of the town centre car park.
because it doesn't have
Yeah.
out of town.
So both of those car parks, got Southampton Street and got Gloucester Street, both be considered as town centre car park.
I suspect they would have to be as geographical, so it's like it's either one or the other. We don't have out of town. So, I mean, I was going to ask, is there a way that, given that we've got the backbone of the decision, essentially, yeah,
We probably need the decision. If we're to reach April, we need the decision today, is my understanding. Correct.
If we're just making changes to the fees and nothing, not the charging or anything like that, no consultations, we've probably got a little bit of time in the new year to agree that.
would it be able to be done by ICMD? Or
There was some very helpful wording up on the screen earlier that seemed to allow for tweaks to be made after the meeting.
Okay, so Steve's come up with a good idea. He always comes up with good ideas. So if you will, what we're trying to get on the record, and it's really helpful that you went through it, Neil, it is what your proposal really is, so that members can hear the proposal.
Yeah.
So I would be confident that members sufficiently understand the proposal, and we believe it is broadly within the budget figures that we provided you. So what you could do, if you were minded, would be to approve Neil's proposal with Andy seconding. But could you give a delegation, please, to the head of service in consultation with the cabinet member in order to ensure that any changes required to make that operationally successful?
Yeah, I'm happy to have that.
Could be achieved.
I'm happy to have that as a proposal.
He reads my mind.
He tells me what mine is.
So I think we've got to a point that
Just if you don't mind, Chair. In terms of Farringdon, obviously, in Southampton Street, the second hour is also free.
Yeah.
So if we were to change that, would that need consultation?
I
Because we would
don't think we can, well, that is something that I would not like to change, because the reason it was there is because Wantage and Abingdon have town centre car parks that have 2 hours free, and Farringdon does not have any town centre car park or that have 2 hours free.
It's only Farringdon has 2 hours free.
No, but
No,
what
yeah,
he's talking about is non-council car
Yeah.
parks.
Oh,
So Waitrose,
Waitrose,
Sainsbury's,
sorry.
whatever.
Yeah.
so I would maintain the Farringdon difference there. That would be my suggestion. Councillor Edwards. Oh, and sorry.
Oh, sorry, I think Mark was first, but
Yeah, Mark was first, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. So I know I don't get to vote, but as the portfolio holder, I should express an opinion. So if I were in the room, I would be voting in favour of the proposal as made there. I would support the the retention of the 2 hour free parking in Southampton Street car park. The Gloucester Street car park is only 1 hour free car parking, which fits in with all the other town centres. So thanks for the opportunity to say that.
Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, and my point was just again about Farringdon. I'm the other councillor in Farringdon, and would agree with the chair's point about the free parking there. So it was just more in agreement with that, and I'm not there to vote, but I also agree with the proposal as well.
Thank you. Councillor Crosby.
Sorry, Chair. Just wanted to double check if we're introducing a 5-hour period, which we haven't got at the moment. There's no danger we're supposed to go and consult on that, is
there? I wouldn't want to say here, Andy.
That would be something that we would want to go and check under the delegation for operational delivery, because we normally assume as officers, and please correct me if this is wrong, that if there was a relatively small financial difference between two options, you would go for the simple administrative option.
It doesn't require consultation, that's why I raised the issue.
And so we can probably, if with your consent, we can word a delegation that emphasises that's what I was indicating by giving us an operational delegation. Give us your preference, recognising that with the cabinet members' agreement, we could make the change that makes it operationally achievable in the most efficient manner. That way you've made your decision and we could progress.
That's right.
But you've obviously also got the cabinet member involved in a conversation with us about how we then introduce that. And you're steered normally, recognising some things we have to consult on. It is that just for clarity, early clarity and administrative ease, we tend to, if there's a vehicle that would get the same outcome that can be achieved without the period of consultation, we tend to go down that route.
Okay, so I think my proposal now is that we support D, G and R with the amendment to table 4B to introduce the additional what I think of a simple hourly charges car park, with the Farringdon car parks being treated as town centre car parks, except that Southampton Street will have 2 hours free. Plus delegation to the relevant officer in consultation with the cabinet member to finalise the details, having checked all the legalities and practicalities of the proposal.
Yeah.
I should do this for a living, really.
Yes, you should. Is that your?
That's I'm not doing anything else. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I can confirm my second. Well, I couldn't have put it better myself.
I feel like a simplification.
Yeah, you're happy with that. So Steve's got that. Now,
You'll see if anyone wants to amend the motion.
yes. Anyone?
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
There is option F. I'm not sure how we. If we could got option F, which is the half price permits for the zero.
So I think my interpretation was the consensus was to not support that.
Okay.
So I didn't personally. I do, but I don't think I'm in the majority, so I didn't propose that.
Yeah. Based on discussions and when Councillor Guest got into points earlier, I think we don't think it is necessarily a fair way of charging. So would you? Yeah.
So there won't be a proposer or a seconder for option F, and therefore it falls without vote.
This is complicated. Okay. So in terms of the recommendations that we have,
yes,
sorry, I just want to get back and just make sure that we've got everything clarified with the experts. So there's the recommendations A, B, and C. So which one?
So A will include the proposal D, G, and I, and the simplification of the charges in the town centre based on £1 per hour after the first hour being free. The Farringdon town centre car parks being town centre car parks. Yeah, both of them, except the Southampton Street 2 hours free. I'll list all this out under A. Also A will need to say delegate authority to the officer in consultation with the cabinet member to go through an operational check to make sure that we work within legalities. So that it's a notice of variation rather than a change to the order, using slightly clearer words than that, but
Yeah.
you get the gist of
Yeah.
Yeah. And then recommendation B, we would remove the parenthesis. Do you agree, John? Recommendation B on your report.
So that's about delegating.
So recommendation B is to delegate to prepare the notice of variation.
Yeah.
But you would only need the first half of recommendation B. You wouldn't need the text in parenthesis.
I wouldn't need to prepare a published draft order. That's right. So we don't need the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the notice of variation. That's. Yeah.
And you would need recommendation C, which is the
communications. Yeah, not necessarily consultations because we're not going to consult, but communications.
Yeah.
And so, as stated there, because I'm not going to repeat it, we are agreeing on recommendation A, proposed by Councillor Fawcett, seconded by Councillor Crawford, and described by.
Yeah, can I add something?
Yeah.
Could members just confirm for us, because I think it's clear what Neil proposed, by the way. And I think it's clear what you seconded, and I think you're clear in the delegation that we've asked for as officers in order to operationalisation, make it work. When you do support or not, could you just state for me, please, that you are clear what we're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, because thank you.
Okay. So,
I'm really sorry.
So, proposed by Councillor Fawcett, seconded by Councillor Crawford, described here by Steve. That's recommendation A, recommendation B without the parentheses, and recommendation C. So, would you like me to go around the room? Or
Yeah. Just members, just please state that you're clear.
No, I will start with. Oh no, he can't vote, can he? Well, hopefully you do.
I'm equally clear as Neil.
Good. Councillor Dewhurst.
I'm clear and I agree with.
Thank you. Councillor Fulsham.
I'm clear and I agree with the proposal.
Councillor Legova.
I'm clear and I agree with the proposal.
And Councillor Cole.
I'm clear and I do agree with the proposal.
Yes, and as do I. So thank you. It's unanimous. You've done that word. Oh, Councillor Coleman put his hand up.
So I'd like to thank Cabinet colleagues for their forbearance with that. This is always an emotive topic, and I think we have found as best we can a balance to bring in the right revenue to cover the costs of car parking, and at the same time trying to encourage people to do a bit more active travel and not going to the town centres where possible. Thank you for clarification on where we might use that surplus, and I do strongly support the use for active travel where we can, assuming we have a surplus. Can I again formally for the record thank John Backley and also all the team for their forbearance with producing this report, which has gone through many iterations. I think we were at version 11 last time I looked, which is indicative of his patience with me requesting changes, but I think we've come to a good balance. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Coleman, and thank you very much, John. Yes, thank you. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for walking us through, and everybody for being so flexible. All officers, thank you. It's not finished yet. And so we're on to item number 8, the request for section 106 funds to Chiltern Parish Council. Now, Councillor Dewhurst, if you could leave the room, and you can have a nice break. Just lips the lip. Take a minute, lad. And Councillor Cole is to introduce this.
Thank you. So I am delighted to be bringing this matter to you for discussion and approval. And you will see from the report the background details to this funding request. And it is the culmination of significant activity dating back over 2 years to bring this before members for their approval. Chiltern Parish Council are seeking total funding of £116,295.07 from contributions to two Section 106 agreements. And this will be used towards developing a new play area, providing equipment and recreation ground improvement at Chiltern Village Play Area, which currently exists. As one of these contributions was secured from a planning permission awarded by a delegation decision, for which there is some element of discretion that could be applied when determining the use of the contribution, the overall funding request is in excess of, and the overall funding request is in excess of £100,000. A council decision will be required in order for the budget to be created for this purpose. Should this be agreed to progress today, this will be taken to council on the 13th of December. If ultimately approved, a third-party funding agreement will be signed by the district and parish council to set out the arrangements for the release of the funding. The parish council will then commence the project and have indicated there is around a 16-week lead-in time for the equipment. The facility is in the ownership of the parish council, so they will have responsibility for the ongoing maintenance of the equipment provided. As part of the process to complete this report, this matter was taken through an internal consultation process, which raised no issues in taking forward the funding application. In particular, the Climate Action team asked a few questions and, based on the response from the parish council, replied to say it was useful to know that climate implications have been taken into account. Also, the Equality and Inclusivity officer commented that this is a well thought out project where people who will use the space have been consulted. Refreshing to see accessible play equipment and a picnic table with an extended end overhang for those in a wheelchair to be able to share the table space. The ward members are also very supportive of the project. So in summary, the new play area equipment and play area upgrade will show the parish council's commitment to providing equipment that is accessible and up to date, having listened to the feedback from users and potential users following extensive consultation. The spending criteria of the Section 106 contributions are in line with the project. I hope that the detail covered in this introduction and in the report is sufficient for Cabinet members to support this for progression. However, if you have any questions, officers are happy to provide any further information requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. And this seems like a very nice project that we are discussing here, and particularly looking at the provision for accessibility, and I think that is very important, and very grateful that we are considering that when refurbishing and considering our parks throughout the district. I can see Janet Hinton-Smith has come on. Do you have any comments that you would like to add?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. No, I don't have any comments to add. I just wanted to be here in case any of you councillors have any comments for me with regard to my report. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for preparing the report and all the work that's gone into this. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Chair. I'm tremendously supportive of this application. It's very well prepared. I'm particularly heartened as the parent of a disabled, now young adult, to see the provision for accessible play equipment. There's nothing more dispiriting for the disabled child or even their parents to go with your friends to a play area and find, well, everybody else can have a lovely time and I can sit on myself. So we are doing the right thing. I'm delighted we're doing the right thing, and I look forward to seeing the new facilities at Chiltern. I think they'll be fantastic. Thank you.
Any further questions? Comments? No, I'm very happy. We recently had an upgrade of facilities in Farrington Park, and that is great that we are doing this as a matter of course. So if we don't have any further questions or comments, can I ask we just agree? Do we agree?
Yeah, agreed. Chair, the recommendation is on page 36 and it's split into cabinet and council recommendations. It's just the first one you need. The cabinet recommending council to create a budget for 116,000 towards the play area equipment and recreation ground improvements.
Thank you.
To be funded from section 106.
Yes. So given that cabinet recommendation, we're all able to agree that. Agreed. Thank you very much. We can bring Councillor Dewhouse back in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your work on this. Now the next two items will be introduced by Councillor Crawford, and item number 9 is the council tax base 2024-25. Councillor Crawford.
That's right, thank you, Chair. I just want to check which officers are here. I was in the seat Simon earlier on. Okay, so this is hopefully going to be quite simple. So this is the council tax base for 2024-25. Before the council tax can be set by the council, a calculation has to be made of the council tax base, which is an estimate of the taxable resources for the district as a whole and for each parish area. The council tax base for the district has to be notified to OCC and the Police and Crime Commissioner by the 31st of January next. Each parish and town council is also notified of the figure for its area. They clearly need to set their parish base. The tax base is essentially the total number of dwellings within the district after taking into account various discounts and exemptions. The final figure is expressed as a band D equivalent. Further details are within the body of the report. Cabinet's recommended to approve a 2024-25 tax base of 58,103.8, which is listed in Appendix A. This reflects a 2.5% tax base increase when compared with last year. It's worth noting that 0.5% of that increase is due to the fact that we're changing the bad debt provision calculation. A collection rate of 98.5% is assumed this year, which will better reflect our collection situation, as opposed to the previous 98% assumed, as we had historically overachieved this figure. It doesn't have any material impact on our finances. It just allows us to budget slightly higher for council tax income and therefore reduce the level of collection fund surplus. Obviously, the numbers have gone up in part because of building, but they also vary when we have, for example, single persons discounts and various other things. So that's my summary of where we are. I'd just like the tax base to be.
Thank you very much.
Happy to take any questions.
Yeah. Does anybody have?
And that's the difficult, in which case Simon can take them.
That's very good. Does anybody have any questions or comments? One of those.
Just to confirm, Chair, this is a recommendation to the full council.
Yeah. You're recommending it. No questions. I think we surprised you that we did have questions during it previously, and we've been grilling you, so now we're probably just
usually with the answer, obviously.
We've sort of exhausted ourselves. But we do appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and it is a lot of work.
One of the reasons I was looking earlier on is I wanted to see if Trevor was on the call, and I couldn't see him earlier on, but he's now so magically appeared. I just wanted to thank him and his team actually for doing this work and indeed for the next item.
Yeah.
It's been interesting times in reviewing benefits and quite a lot of pressure that they're all under for various reasons. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, we do. Trevor and his team, I think, are painfully helpful at all times, and I'm sure.
Don't tell him that.
Oh, whoops. Unfailingly helpful, Trevor. And we do appreciate your assistance and help putting this report together, all the work that's gone into it. So can I ask that we recommend to council the 3 recommendations that are listed here? Do I have to read them?
Page 44. Firstly, page 44 recommendation.
So the recommendations on page 44. Is everybody happy to agree with those? Agree. Excellent. Thank you.
Can I just comment as well that the figure that we're achieving is actually really high. 98.5% is very much top of the table. I don't know if we're actually top of the table, but we're very much in the top part of the table, and a huge amount of work goes in routinely to achieve that as well.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a very good point to note. And thank you. Stephen's writing it. So on to item number 10, the final item for this morning's meeting, and the council tax reduction scheme.
That'll be me again.
25, yes.
So each year the council is required to adopt a council tax reduction scheme, which is known as CTRS. The report here is to make a minor change to the current CTRS scheme the next year onwards, mainly to give the council better protection regarding possible fraud and also to plug a potential risk, which is now being created by recent changes in the Department of Work and Pensions, DWP work practices. As set out in the report, the local DWP offices are disbanding. Joint working has stopped. It's called progress. The minor recommended change to the council scheme moving forward simply helps bridge the gap and the risk caused as a result of these recent DWP changes. Where the council has identified that a taxpayer has failed to notify the DWP of a relevant change in circumstances affecting the legacy benefit or universal credit, then where necessary, their entitlements to CTR will be stopped until that notification has taken place and revised DWP benefit entitlement known. Further details is provided within the report, but in essence, this is a process to change to allow us more control when known anomalies exist within what DWP is required to go to council on the
page.
And I'm happy to take any
questions. I was going to say, I was going to ask that you're happy to take questions. Any questions? No, and I do appreciate this work again, and in previous years, we have identified groups and individuals that could benefit from this scheme who are particularly vulnerable, and I do appreciate that and all the work that's gone into it. Does anybody have any further questions? Mark, obviously he is very poorly, because he's usually our #1 question. But if nobody has any, is everybody happy to note the recommendations on page 49 of the agenda pack, and recommending that to council, as Steve said? Agreed. Thank you very much. Well, given that is the last item, and that is the end of the meeting. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, officers, for all the work you've done. As we know, it's been a very trying couple of weeks, and for you to all be here and working with us, we really do appreciate it. So thank you.